If the authorities ever genuinely thought that the masks were about health, then that was for a very brief period. And I'm not sure they ever did, in their hearts, believe that masks had an impact from a health point of view. Ever since that point, it has always and only been about control. It was about muzzling people, isolating people, and splitting people into polarised camps, because the last thing that any authoritarian-minded government wants is a confident, educated, independent population able to make its own decisions and go about its business. And fear is the key. Fear has always been the key.
From a psychological point of view, masks are a very potent maintainer of fear. And we know fear has been artificially elevated throughout the pandemic, and masks are now acting to keep that fear level going.
When you look around and you detect other people are wearing masks, what was that? What does your hindbrain, your lizard brain tell you? Hazard, risk, threat, frightening. So basically, it amps up people's fear. I think that's been the main reason. It's to make people frightened.
And there's only a couple of countries that have ever really done large-scale studies to try and figure out what might work. Japan, it may not surprise you, is one of them. And they, in one of their large studies, they basically showed that the masks, it seemed like the major efficacy of a mask is that it causes alarm in the other person.
It's in the government's interests to keep the fear on, the engine idling, to keep the fear on tick over. It's playing to the instincts of part of the population. I think there are multiple reasons why some people are still wearing face masks. I think for a lot of people it's a symptom of a disease, and the disease is fear. And that fear is not from any Chinese lab, but it was cooked up by our own government.
This paper was prepared by SAGE's Behavioural Science Subgroup, SPI-B, for discussion at SAGE 18 on the 23rd of March. This is the British government using applied behavioural psychology inside the COVID science group to make people frightened. Look at what it is saying down here. Use the media to increase the sense of personal threat. Use the media to make people fearful.
And excessive fear in a community does have costs, including making a significant contribution to the tens of thousands of non-COVID excess deaths that we've seen throughout the pandemic, with people being too scared to go into hospitals, elderly people dying of loneliness in isolation. Fear elevation is not good for our society. Also, we've got Gavin Morgan's testimony. Gavin Morgan is an educational psychologist who sits on the SPIB, the Behavioural Science subgroup of SAGE. And in Laura Dodsworth's excellent book, A State of Fear, she interviewed him. And he said he was very much against masking, particularly masking kids. But there were people on the committee who believed it was a good idea because it promoted a sense of solidarity. Now, that's not got much to do with viral transmission, as far as I can see. Also, if you actually look at what we've had to endure over the last 2 years with the issue of psychological nudging to get us to comply.
So my day job is running the Behavioural Insights team, often known as the Nudge Unit, and we spend a lot of time helping governments across the world do these techniques.
The three most prominent psychological nudges that have been deployed on the people of our country are fear inflation, shaming, and peer pressure or scapegoating. And I don't think it's any coincidence that masks enforce and enhance each of those three nudges in a big way. They're fear perpetuators, because it screams at us that one of us is a biohazard. Maybe both of us are a biohazard. It maintains fear. It easily allows people to be identified so that people can tell who's following the rules and who isn't. So it kind of harnesses peer pressure and scapegoating.
Get away from me now! No mask! Get out!
No.
Put your mask on.
Get away from me,
Put it
please.
on. Does it bother anybody else that she doesn't have to wear a mask that we all do?
Just go away. Stay 6 feet away from me then.
No.
Fuera de aquí. Fuera de aquí. Fuera. 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 Fuera.
And also because of the ego nudge about equating following the rules with being a good, virtuous person. You remember the actor with things like, I wear a face covering to protect my mates, all that kind of thing. Really very effective, very powerful. It's equated following the rules with being a good person. And the flip side of that, of course, is you're a bad person if you don't.
Then there are those for whom I think the mask is a badge of some sort of imagined superiority. There were those who swallowed hook, line and sinker that wearing a mask was a good thing to do, good thing in block capitals. And having been seen to be doing the good thing, they won't. That proportion of the population, that portion of the population, won't let that drop.
And masks are so easy to distinguish the good guys from the bad guys.
Masks were always the most straightforward and the most obvious sign that could be demanded from people to show whether or not they were complying, which team they were on, team colours. Are you on team good people who wear masks?
Exactly.
Or are you on team naughty people who don't?
So it's a really potent compliance device.
Let's head over to the UK really quick.
Okay.
There's a member of parliament there that's really made some waves with an opinion piece. His name's Graham Brady. He's a chairman of the Tory 1922 committee. These are the backbenchers of the Conservative Party. This group can collectively exercise at times considerable power. The entire page is not quotes, these are all his words. And he says, I believe the real purpose of masks is social control. It's time to turn down the fear dial, writes Graham Brady, chairman of the Tory 1922 committee. Now in here, he says, many politicians and advisors will admit privately that the policy change compelling people to wear masks was not really about the spread of infection at all, but about the psychological effect that they would have. That real purpose is social control, to provide a constant reminder to maintain distance from other people, to maintain a state of anxiety that leaves people more likely to comply with the restrictions that might otherwise be resisted or forgotten.
And this is pretty much exactly what the New Zealand Ministry of Health say in this response to an Official Information Act request from October 2021. The Ministry of Health says, maintaining the requirement for face coverings provides wider benefits that support the overall response to the pandemic. Face coverings are a constant reminder of the ongoing threat posed by COVID-19 and will help prompt people to be more vigilant about other important behaviours such as physical distancing, scanning using the New Zealand COVID Tracer app, hand hygiene and coughing and sneezing etiquette.
And that's what I think happened with SARS. When I was in the SARS epidemic, I saw everywhere, all over Asia, people started wearing these masks.
We have to turn into a mask-using society, like Japan, South Korea.
And it is alarming when you walk down a street and everybody coming towards you has a mask on. You definitely do social distancing. It's just a gut thing. But did the mask really help them? Did the mask keep the virus out? Almost certainly not.
What I'd say is that masks have come to represent a whole range of values and signals. So I know from interviewing people from my book, A State of Fear, and also more recently that masks were supposed to signal various things. In fact, if you listened to an interview with David Halpin, who's the head of the government's nudge unit in a select committee last year, he talked about masks being a signal.
Yeah. It took a long time to get people on masks. And our view quite early on was masks were effective, not least because of their signalling they create.
But complacency is our enemy, isn't it?
Yes, and I think that is actually one of the reasons for having mask use, because it is a very visible reminder that this threat hasn't gone away.
Professor Neil Ferguson has said something similar about them. The idea is it keeps alive this idea that we need to be careful.
It makes you remember there's a pandemic, doesn't it?
And in a way, therefore, they kind of symbolise fear. They're keeping fear in our face, literally.